I'm not sure about you, but I feel like smartphone prices are getting a bit out of control today. Am I right? So interestingly enough, this is the first time I'm checking out a TCL phone. Now, they are the same company that made the recent BlackBerry smartphones and of course also the Alcatel phones. Back in 2015, I actually reviewed the Alcatel One Touch Idol 3. Came into my radar and was the first time that it made me look at Alcatel differently, because now they weren't some unknown brand. They had some serious devices and that was the very first one. And now that Huawei's out of the picture, TCL has an opportunity to take up that mantle of being a premier smartphone maker here in the US. And with that in mind, I'm going to give you reasons why TCL is a manufacturer that's going to be big in the space. The first thing that really stood out for me was its design. Now, the TCL 10 Pro has a stunning looking premium design language. The particular one that I have here is the Ember Gray version. You have dual-sided 3D glass, and the material itself is sturdy. It's great at resisting fingerprints, which is impressive because no matter what, even if you choose not to use the included case, the finish does well at resisting dirt, debris, and fingerprints, so it always looks clean. It does feature also an in-screen fingerprint sensor. You have a headphone jack, you can easily pop in your headphones. There's an IR sensor that allows it to double as a remote, and there is a quad camera system, so an impressive feature set. However, it is missing some stuff that you'll find in premium flagship smartphones. For example, it doesn't have a water-resistant construction, and there is no wireless charging. For the price you're paying, it's better than most phones. Next up, we have the display. It's a 6.47-inch Full HD Plus curved AMOLED display. I really like the way it looks. Lots of good details, really bright, saturated colors. The viewing angles are exceptional. Even at wide angles, you don't see any of that color distortion. And also handles direct sunlight, so the brightness output is really strong. And I do notice that in direct sunlight you see that increase in brightness. You also have that full screen look that makes it almost seamless. There is a slight notch though for the 24 megapixel front facing camera, but it's not distracting at all. It features TCL's Next Vision technology, and basically this is something you see in other smartphones where the display adjusts the colors, the contrast, and even the sharpness in some cases. And essentially what it does here, when you play videos through the gallery app, it'll enhance it. So it'll have more of a visual appeal because of those brighter colors and stronger contrast. Now, if there's one thing I really wish it had, was the Next Vision technology enabled with the YouTube app, but unfortunately it's not there. You're only going to get it as an option when you're watching videos natively through the gallery. What I'm really excited about the TCL 10 Pro is the quad camera system it has in place. So it features a main 64 megapixel camera. There's a super wide 16 megapixel camera. You have a dedicated 5 megapixel one for macro shots. And the final one is for super low light mode. So it's a 2 megapixel camera. Unfortunately, it lacks an optical or zoom lens, which is kind of a bummer because yes, I appreciate the super wide, the macro, but for me, I've used other phones that have that optical zoom, and in some cases, it's nice to have just to get a little bit closer to the shot without physically being right up there. As far as the quality, I don't have too many complaints. For the most part, the TCL 10 Pro manages to do perfectly with ideal situations. Pictures look good for the most part. The low light could be better, but with the super low light mode, I just wish that it showed the exposure enhancement while taking a photo, like on some other phones where you hold the phone steady and over a period of time, let's say 5 seconds, you see that increase in exposure. This one, you don't have that. You just hold the phone steady, it takes the photos, so you don't quite know what it looks like until you preview it afterwards. There are plenty of shooting modes here, so you have things like panoramic, you have your macro shot, there is a pro mode, so you have all the manual controls at your disposal. You can adjust the shutter speed, the ISO. Over on the video side now, it tops out at 4K 30 frames per second. You have various slow motion modes as well. There is no built-in optical image stabilization. It's all electronic software based. As far as the quality goes, when it comes to shooting video, like I said, if you have good lighting in the scenery, it does a decent job. You have nice details, plentiful. You have some flexibility come post. Colors have a nice pop to them. The only time where it really struggles is, I guess in general, with low light. I do notice some noise in the shots, very soft tones when it comes to the details, so not really the best when it comes to that. And the same kind of applies to with the low light mode for taking still shots, unless you use that super low light mode, which does well to reduce the noise and also increase the exposure, so you have a nice balance in the shot. But the problem is that sometimes it's a little bit aggressive with some of the post-processing effects. So I do notice things like over sharpening. And the last thing I want to talk about here is the performance out of the TCL 10 Pro. When it comes to making phone calls, it's decent. I didn't have any problems at all having conversations. The speakers are strong, both the earpiece and speakerphone. They do have some other features with the interface. They have the edge bar, which I've seen in other phones. It's nice to have, but I didn't really use it as much. It basically gives you quick access to some of your favorite applications, so you can just scroll through them right from the get-go, but I just generally stick with the usual task menu. That's how I switch between the apps. It's powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 675 processor, so right there in itself, it's not flagship caliber. Okay, I'll be honest, it's not the fastest thing out there, but I'm okay with that. It gets the stuff done for the most part as far as running apps, but I do tend to see some slowdown when it's processing stuff. For example, I like doing a lot of video editing, and I could tell that it's slower when it comes to rendering the video than other smartphones that have better processors. The battery in the TCL 10 Pro is a 4500 milliamp hour battery, and it's more than enough to get me through a solid day. Yes, I do wish that it had wireless charging, but that is the compromise when you have a phone this low in price. It does feature a fast charging system, but compared to some other phones that I've used, like the Huawei P30 Pro, it's not quite as fast when it comes to charging. But at the end of the day, when you're going to bed, I'm just plugging it in. I really don't care at that point. So the TCL 10 Pro is going to set you back $450, and that is half the cost of today's flagship devices. There's a lot of value, and that's what I love about this phone the most. There are three things I really look out for. They are the camera, price, and battery. For TCL, they are in a good position to become a player here in the US market. Obviously for them, they could truly make a flagship caliber smartphone. How is that going to turn out? The price point, what kind of specs and features? I'm pretty confident that you'll hear more about TCL. They're a company that you're gonna need to watch out for. And that is it for my video, guys. I appreciate you watching this video. And of course, you could subscribe to my channel. I'll be hopefully doing more tech videos whenever I have time. But besides that, I'll catch you in my next one.